There are some amazing, great anthems that we sing on Easter Sunday, and we are going to sing those songs. But the first, that Easter morning, the day of Jesus' resurrection, did not begin with great, resounding anthems. It began, just as his life on earth did, it began quietly. The greatest day in history began not with a bang, but with a whisper and with a question. It began on a small blue planet, on a tiny continent, outside a little human city, among the trees and herbs of a garden, tucked into one corner, carved into a wall of stone, where there was a cave. And in that cave there lay the body of a man wrapped in a linen shroud. Outside the cave it was night, and the full moon of Passover was silvering the leaves and the ground where the light fell. But none of that light entered the cave. The moonlight just slid off the great wheel of stone that hid it. It bounced off the emperor's Roman clay seal that was pressed into place, making it clear to anyone who had any ideas what the penalty would be for moving that stone. Inside the cave, it was as dark as pitch on the greatest day in history. This ordinary cave had been formed slowly over the years by water running through the limestone. And then it was tooled and shaped by human hands into a tomb, into a place for a body to rest at the end of life. And inside the cave, dampness seeped through the rough stone walls and ceiling, and every now and then a drip would fall to the floor, the only sound on the greatest day in history. Outside the cave, the world was different from ours. The world outside that cave was not wallpapered with sound, with traffic noise and radio. Inside the cave, no fridges and fans were going on and off. There were 6 stone walls, keeping away the voices of the birds and the sound of the wind, keeping them away from the man who lay beyond hearing them anyway. He lay surrounded by the kind of silence that we, in our automotive cell phone world, can only imagine. He lay there for an evening and a night, and a morning and an evening and a night and a morning, through 3 days of silence, until the greatest day in history. If we had been there that day, if we had been in the corner of that cave, we might have missed the first sound to break the silence. A sound that we hear every day, every minute of every day without really hearing it. The sound of a human heart. The sound of a pulse and blood rushing through veins. And then following that, a sound that we would have been able to hear louder and audible, the sound of a breath. Air drawn in past vocal cords and into lungs, hinting at a voice that had been silenced, but not for much longer. And then, in the dark, the sound of movement, a hand shifting and flexing to free itself from the wrapping of the linen shroud, pushing it aside and reaching to free the other hand. And then the sound of arms reaching up to unwind the cloth that wrapped around his head. And then blinking, eyes opening. Can you hear a blink? We can hear the turn of his head as he looks around and sees day in history. He sits up. He places his feet on the ground for the first time in 4 days, and there is no pain. It's too dark to see the scars, but he knows they're there, carved for eternity, like hieroglyphs for freedom. He stands. After lying unmoving for so long, before he might have been stiff and stretching out the kinks, but not today. Today, his body is strong and whole. His thoughts are clear. Both are perfected. He reaches up above his head and feels the cool of the stone ceiling. He lifts to his face the cloth that had been around his head and smells the faintest memory of dried blood and tears and sweat. He sees around the great stone the shape of a slightly lesser darkness, and he hears his own breathing, and he hears the voice of the Spirit on the greatest day in history. And then there comes a sound that is impossible to miss. Like the tearing of a curtain, like an army's cry of victory, the sound of stone on stone, scraping and complaining as the great gravestone begins to roll. And again, he smiles, picturing what it would look like to someone out there. This massive thing just getting itself out of the way and making a path. The sliver of moonlight shining in on the floor grows and grows and grows to a great circle. The damp stone smell of the cave is flooded with the fragrances of leaf and bark and soil, and the cave walls echo the sound of bird song and the breeze. And he steps through, taking his first steps into a world that didn't even know it was waiting for this. The greatest day in history. As he walks, he feels underfoot the fragments of the emperor's great clay seal, now shattered and powerless on the ground. And he looks around. The garden doesn't look familiar, but they had put him here. They know where he is. They will come. He will wait. He walks the ground of this world he made. He touches the leaves of the trees and the herbs that he made. He smells the fragrance they shed on the tips of these fingers that he made. He looks through eyes that he made, looked up at the night sky that he made. It's dark there too, but not silent and not empty. The night sky is filled with light and life and the power of the Father, the breath of the Spirit, the joy of the Son, resounding with the voice of creation itself, singing after having held its breath. The voices of the past crying, "Hosanna, oh, save us." And the voices of the future singing, "Hallelujah, salvation is from our God, the greatest day in history." Out of long human habit, he closes his eyes and he prays. Can we even imagine how God prays to God? Time passes. The moon moves across the sky. The black shifts to the deepest blue, and the stars begin to fade. And early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. The next sound he hears is the whisper of sandaled feet in the grass, walking tired, lightly stumbling, as though towards an unwelcome task. 3 women who have work to do. And they whisper their questions to each other. So he steps back into the shadows, and he sees them enter the glade. He sees them stop short in surprise. The stone isn't where they left it. He watches as Mary and Salome cautiously step into the cave that he had just left. He sees them silhouetted by a flare of light from within. He sees his daughters backing out into the moonlight, shaken. He sees them hurry away. And he sees Mary of Magdala stay, looking for answers. He sees his child, and she sees her rabbi on the greatest day in history. And finally, he speaks. The air flows out over those reborn vocal cords. The voice of the one who said, "Let there be light." Today, he is not speaking a command. He is asking a question. "Woman, why are you weeping?" Jesus says. "Who are you seeking?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him off, just tell me where you've put him, and I'll go and get him." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means my teacher.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, no other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, no other has ever known. She throws herself at his feet in joy at seeing him again, and he says to her, "Don't hang on to me. I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go and tell my brothers that I am ascending to my Father, and to your Father, and to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord,"